But one of the things that you mentioned when we first spoke is that you are a fan of Hamlet.
Yeah.
So first off, I love Hamlet. I love like Shakespeare. That's probably one of my favorite Shakespeare's. I did admit that I've not actually seen the whole thing, but from what I've seen, I really like it. I think it's really cool. I think it's like, Hamlet himself as a character is such a unique character. He has a unique way of viewing the world. He has a unique way of existing. He thinks a lot. He ruminates a lot. And I think, like I told you, he reminds me of like modern day people, modern day, our generation of people, how they think. But before we start there, talk to me a little bit more about that. Like how would you describe Hamlet to someone who hasn't read it yet?
As a play,
Mm,
there's sort of the black letter plot of um, the ghost of his father comes and visits him, and then the ghost tells him that Claudius killed his father. But what's interesting to me is that Hamlet is like the epitome of human condition and thinking. And we were talking about the idea of overthinking, and how he's sort of paralyzed with the amount of information that he has, that he's unable to make a decision. And I think that's like a really interesting part of Hamlet, the most interesting part of Hamlet. Sorry, Shakespeare, but how we get to see his mind like from his perspective, but also not from his perspective. So
I completely agree. And you said something that's super interesting about like how A is part of the human condition, like how is the bear, because I think he's the first main character of his type where you see them deal with the conditions of the human, like the what it means to be human, and like the bare bone aspect of just being like your mind is just racing 1,000 miles per hour and everything like that. I think a lot of that is just kind of like linked to how our generation views a lot of things, which is what I want to talk about. Like, do you think our generation would benefit from reading Hamlet? Do you think they'll be able to, really be able to see the effects of overthinking and what that does to a person?
I think there's a bit of a difference because Hamlet obviously is overthinking quite major topics. He's considering whether or not he should kill his uncle, which I don't think is something most of us have to think about.
You don't think that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that relates to us. But I think everyone could benefit from reading Hamlet.
Yeah.
It's a great play. Plug for Hamlet.
Plug for Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Why do you think it still resonates then? Like, if not like the fact that we're all thinking about killing our uncle and, thinking about how our other uncle is doing something with our Queen Mother. What do you think? Why do you think it still resonates to people all these years later?
I think it is the human condition, like we said. How Hamlet goes through such range of emotions, and how ultimately he's not a hero, but he's like one of us. He's the main character in the play. So I think that kind of makes it quite relatable. So it's like reading someone from our generation in a play.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the cool thing about Shakespeare, I think we're just going to gush about Shakespeare for a little bit. I think one of the things I really love about Shakespeare is his understanding of the human condition. And I used to tell my friends all of this all the time. Like, I think Shakespeare is the greatest writer of all time. And people be like, whatever, I don't,
Big statement.
I know, but I think his ability to understand what human beings feel and portray that in his characters is like second to none. I think he, especially for the English gentleman, he kind of gave them a way of being, like a way of understanding like how to relate to your fellow humans.
Okay.
Like his way of like characters, because I remember like even like moving away from Hannah a little bit, his way of like looking at like Othello, for example, how this character was like, tortured by this thing that he thought was going on between his wife and Desdemona and his friend
Diago.
Yeah, thank you. Just like that relationship, and to like break that down, and like I think that reflects a lot about how human beings think, and I think Shakespeare had a very good understanding of human beings, obviously, evidently in Hamlet too. But what do you think about that idea? What do you think about the idea that, Shakespeare is arguably the greatest writer of all time?
That's a big assertion. I'm not going to comment on like the literary science company. I think he's definitely got a range of plays but his way, like you said, his way of capturing the human condition and quite human emotions that are central to all of us. I think that's what makes him great.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he's the greatest is up for debate, but definitely one of the greatest.
It's always funny when you make these like grand statements, right? Because
Yeah.
you make a grand statement, someone's going to disagree with you.
How are you going to defend it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal opinion, right? It's like, how can you say I'm wrong if I believe that? Again,
how are you saying you're right?
How you saying I'm right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All in a circle. On Hamlet, actually, then, I thought when I read it, one of the things I think was poignant to me was like his indecision, his inability to figure out what he should do. Like, he has this dream and he's like, oh my God, this thing I think happens. And he's unsure this whole time. And I thought, do you think that his indecision is a part of his weakness? Or do you think it's kind of like his refusal to simplify the world? And on follow up from that, what do you think that says about our generation's like indecision? Because I feel like there's a lot of indecision with us, right? We don't know anything. Everything's up in the air. Everything's in flux. Mm-hmm. But do we look at that as like a negative, or do you look at that as like a part of like truly grappling with the complexity of what the world is?
I think making a decision is always a good idea. Hamlet's decision comes from wanting to understand everything. And I think that's a good trait to have. But you have to make a decision at the end of the day, and decisiveness is key. So as much as you can think and analyze everything, he has to make a decision. So it is sort of a weakness, but it's not a weakness of Hamlet necessarily. I think it's more just people. If we weren't pressed to make a decision, we would probably spend all of our time thinking about something.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But whether or not it's a refusal to comply with the complexity of the world, I don't know, because refusal's quite strong. I think he still tries to make sense of it. It's just he's unfortunately unable to.
Let's dig into that then. Do you think, just that question alone, rather than speaking for being general about everything, do you think there is a idea behind refusing to understand the complexity of the world? Because I think, right, and this is where I kind of got the question from, that there is sometimes, you are right, there is this chance where you have to make a decision. You make a decision for your life and you follow it. But like you're working with incomplete information, and that's like obvious, right? But there is also people who make a decision and just accept what is, almost as if like, oh, you're like, the world is complex, but I'm going to simplify it in my mind and just make a decision based on that. But there is something to be said about accepting the complexity of the world, accepting that everything's in flux and still making a decision anyway. Maybe that's not what Hamlet was doing. What do you think about that? What do you think about the two paths, I guess, of like either simplifying the world and making a decision, because it's easier to just have like 3 ideas that you think about and then just like follow that, or like accepting that it's like infinitely complex, but it's fine because, like you accept the complexity in itself?
I don't think those are 2 separate ideas though. I think it's all about sorry, that's a really cute dog. In moderation.
It is a really cute dog.
It is a really cute dog. How you make sense of the world around you and how much information you're willing to let in, how much information you're willing to dissect. So I think that's a good question, but they're not 2 separate ideas. I think analyzing information is good, but also being aware that you're always going to have incomplete information and still making a decision.
What do you think about that then? The idea that there's always going to be incomplete information. Like, what does that say about the pursuit of knowledge and truth? Just a left foot question out there.
Rephrase that for me.
If the understanding that you're never going to find the ultimate truth, right? Should we still pursue truth? Should we still pursue knowledge? And understanding that we're never going to find an answer to it. Isn't it just like us, like kind of like going in circles because there's never a true answer?